famous for two reasons. It's famous for the Grove City outlets, where people come from miles around to shop. And it's famous for Grove City Christian College, where people come from miles around to get an education. Grove City is such a quaint little college town, and it's equipped with its own Walmart, movie theater, and its very own Grove City local Agway. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Agway stores are an agricultural store that specializes in selling farm, pet, lawn, and garden supplies. And I draw your attention to this particular Agway store because my mom, my dad, my brother, and I have all worked at this Agway store. We worked at our different points in our lives, and we had different jobs and positions there, but we have all been Messiah College to do the 4-hour drive instead of like the 30-minute drive to my home. But I would still come home to Western PA every summer, and for 2 of those summers, I worked at Grove City Agway as a plant specialist. Now, I'll be honest with you, I actually didn't have a job title. I just made that up because I wanted to sound cool. But I gave myself the title of a plant specialist. And what I did those summers was I would water the plants, take care of them, prune them, and try to sell them. And I loved my job as a plant specialist. One of the first things I learned, and one of the most important things I learned, is that as a plant specialist, you have to prune the rose bushes. Because if you leave a rose bush unattended, it's going to produce this extra growth, and it's going to get tangled up and actually get in the way of the light that it needs to receive to grow. And when you don't prune a rose bush, it begins to produce a lot of inferior quality roses instead of the few beautiful, stunning roses that we all love to see. So if you want the rose bush to be the best it can be, then you have to prune it. I've heard that what's true about roses is also true about grapevines. That if you don't prune a grapevine, it produces a lot of extra growth, and it begins to grow internal and gets tangled up in itself. And so the life and the energy of the vine is wasted in these internal growing branches that actually aren't bearing fruit. So for the vine to be its most fruitful and most healthy, then you have to prune and trim off the branches that aren't bearing fruit, so that the life and health of the vine can be directed to the branches that are bearing fruit. Jesus, in John chapter 15, turns to this familiar agricultural metaphor of a vine, or we might even say a rose bush, as a way to talk about his relationship with his disciples and his ongoing relationship with us who follow Jesus today. So if you have your Bibles with you, or you can feel free to grab one off the back of the pew in front of you, I invite you to open up to John chapter 15, beginning in verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit. Because apart from me, you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified in this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. I am the true vine. These are 5 important words that begin this metaphor of the grapevine. But we're might not seem that significant up there on the screen, but it's very important to this metaphor. Because Jesus is saying that he is the true vine, and this would have shocked his Jewish audience. Because the Jewish audience Jesus was speaking to was very familiar with the Hebrew Scriptures, what we refer to as our Old Testament. And time again throughout the Hebrew Scriptures, many times the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, were referred to as a vine. That it was thought that the way to be in relationship with God was to be a part of the people of Israel. That if you wanted to be connected to God, you had to be a part of the Jewish people. And this is an image used time and time again throughout the Hebrew Scriptures. In fact, many of the prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, and Jeremiah use this image. Even the psalmists use this image to talk about the people of Israel as the vine. Jesus would have been very familiar with this image, but he takes the image and flips it on its head and applies it to himself. He says, I am the true vine. The nation of Israel isn't the true vine. Instead, I am. If you want to be connected with God, then you have to follow me. If you want to be in relationship with God, you don't have to be part of the nation of Israel. You don't have to be a Jew. If you want to know God, then you have to follow me. You have to be in a deepening, abiding, growing relationship with me. That the only way to know God is to be in relationship with Jesus. That it doesn't matter your ethnic or your religious background. All that matters is that you follow Jesus. Jesus is the true vine. If Jesus is the vine, then God the Father is the vine grower. God is like the master gardener. God is like the plant specialist whose job is to prune the branches. Because God cares about the whole health of the vine. You see, God, as the master gardener, can see the whole picture and can see the whole vine. And so God's responsibility is to prune the branches that are harming the life of the vine. Those branches that are growing internal and that are getting tangled up and that are sucking out the life from the vine but aren't actually producing fruit, those branches have to be pruned for the sake of the health of the whole vine. So that the life and energy of the vine can be directed to the branches that are growing out toward the light and are producing very much fruit. Because God desires for the vine to be the best it can be, to be the most fruitful it can be, God prunes the vine. So if Jesus is the vine and God is the master gardener, then that means we are the branches. And so Jesus talks about this in John 15, verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me, and I in them, bear much fruit, because apart from me, you can do nothing. Here Jesus tells us our role, that in this agricultural metaphor, we are the branches. And Jesus in this verse tells us what our role and responsibility is as branches. That we are to abide in Jesus, and that we are to bear much fruit. That is our responsibility, our role as branches. But you might be thinking, well, Hannah, what in the world does it mean to abide in Jesus and to bear much fruit? Jump down with me to verse 8. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As my Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. How do we abide in Jesus? We abide in Jesus by keeping Jesus' commandments. This is how we abide, remain, stay, dwell in the vine. But you might ask, what is Jesus' commandment? Well, verse 12 answers this question. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. We who follow Jesus are the branches, and we are to abide in Jesus and to bear much fruit. And so how do we abide in Jesus? We follow Jesus' commandment. And what is Jesus' commandment? To love one another. And this love that we have for one another, I think, is not just limited to us here in this space this morning, or even limited to the people that we encounter, but this love is something we also share in our relationship with Jesus. That as we abide in Jesus and grow deeper in our relationship with Jesus, we receive Jesus' love, and we reflect that love back to Jesus. And as we're filled up with Jesus' love, we share that with every single person that we encounter. And that when we share that love with everyone that we encounter, that is how we bear fruit. That our acts of love are tangible acts and a visual expression of our love for Jesus and one another. So, as we've seen in this agricultural metaphor this morning, there are 3 essential elements to bear fruit. That if you're going to produce fruit, you need a vine. That Jesus is the vine, the source of life. For the vine to be the best it can be, then you need a gardener that prunes the vine and looks after the health of the vine. And for there to be fruit, you have to have branches. And that we, as branches, our role is to remain in the vine, to fall deeper in love with Jesus, and to bear much fruit, to share Jesus' love with the world. But I share this metaphor with you this morning, not as just a cute song like I did with the kids about we are the vine and Jesus is the branches. It's not just a cute song, it's not just a cute reminder to love Jesus and love others. But this metaphor comes with a warning that we have to remain in the vine and love Jesus, and we have to bear fruit by loving others, because this is absolutely foundational to our Christian faith. That we have to love Jesus and love others. That's not just a cute thing we say on Sunday morning, but it's foundational to what it means to follow Jesus. And this metaphor comes with a warning that if we stop loving Jesus and stop loving one another, then we are in danger. That we are in danger of being cut off from the vine. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. That if we stop loving Jesus and others, we are in danger of growing internal and thinking too much about ourselves. That we get tangled up and we're actually hurting the life of the vine. That we aren't bearing fruit, and so we're sucking out vital life and energy from the vine. And for the health of the whole vine, if we stop loving God and loving others, we're in danger of being cut off and pruned from the vine. And so this is a warning, a call to make sure that we are daily loving Jesus and loving others. And so this morning, I want to urge you and plead with you that if you are not daily abiding in Jesus, that if you are not taking time daily to spend time with Jesus, then I beg you to start this week. To do whatever it takes to set aside just some time to spend with Jesus. Maybe that's 5 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 60 minutes, whatever it looks like for you. But to carve out time to remain and dwell in the vine, to connect with Jesus, to receive his love for you and to reflect it back to him, that you can then share it with others. I was convicted when I was in Africa a few weeks ago that I can get up early when I'm in the States to work out, or I can stay up late to watch a movie and hang out with friends, but I'm reluctant to give up moments of precious sleep to spend more time with Jesus, who loves me more than I could even imagine. And as I've been thinking about our relationship with Jesus, I realized that the only way we can grow in our relationship with Jesus is to spend more time with Jesus and to get to know Jesus more. That's why it's so important to read our Bible, especially the Gospels, because that teaches us more about who Jesus is. That's why prayer is so important, because it allows us to talk with Jesus and to listen to him. And if our relationship with Jesus is anything like our relationship with our spouses, then the more time we spend with them and the more we know them, often the more we love them. I can say that I love Chris, my husband, now more today than I did when we first got married, because I know him that much better now. I've spent that much more time with him. And I think the same is true in our relationship with Jesus, that we have to spend time with him and get to know him more, to grow in our love of Jesus. And so I urge you this week to do whatever it takes to grow in your relationship with Jesus. It's not too late to pick up a John Bible reading plan on your way out this morning from the Welcome Center or a Daily Bread, or you can use an app like YouVersion on your phone to read the Bible on your phone or to get emails sent to you. Do whatever it takes. Pray. Take some time to pray for our prayer list or for our world. Listen to worship music as you drive to work. Whatever it takes to draw you closer to Jesus, to fall more in love with Jesus this week. Our role as branches is to abide in Jesus. to receive his love and to reflect it back to Jesus and share it with others throughout the world. And it's this love that motivates us to do acts of love and kindness that others can see Jesus' love in us. It's this love that caused us to serve with Habitat for Humanity. It's this love that causes us to bless people like Babe this week. It's this love that motivates us to put the needs of our family members ahead of our own. It's this love that motivates us to be more compassionate to that annoying coworker that we face every day. It's this love that allows us to be patient, like Paige was saying, to allow people to get in front of us in the grocery store, even when we just want to get out of there and get home. It's this love that it manifests itself in really tangible ways, big and small ways in our lives. And so St. John's, God is the master gardener. And my thought is, I wonder if God came to St. John's this morning and looked at our section of the vine, what would God see? Would God see a healthy, growing section of the vine with many fruitful branches? Or would God see some branches that are growing internal, focused on ourselves and our own desires that are getting tangled up in the way of the light and the life of the vine? What would God see in the health of the vine in this place and in our own hearts? So today I ask you to examine your own branch in the vine, to check out the health of it, to ask yourself if you are actively loving Jesus and loving others. Because if you aren't, you are in danger of being pruned from the vine. And God only does that because God cares about the health of the vine. God cares about all of us becoming the best branches that we can be in loving God and loving others. Let us pray. God, we thank you so much for your word in Scripture, for the power of it to remind us of this simple yet such important truth that we have to be more and more in love with you, more in love with others each and every day. That this love should be the foundational characteristic of our lives in you. And God, I pray this morning that you would pour out more of your Spirit, more of your presence in this place. That you would break our heart for what breaks yours, and that you would pour out your love into our lives. God, we want to be healthy, fruitful branches. We want to abide in you, and we want to bear much fruit and share your love with the world. And so, God, I just pray that you would strengthen us today, that you would equip us to share your love with the world. God, I just pray for any of us who might feel like we are withering as a branch, that we feel like we've really struggled recently to love you and love others. God, I just pray that you would refresh our spirits this morning. That you would fill us up to send us out with your love. That you would remind us of just how much you loved us. That you love us enough that you sent your son Jesus to live and die and to be resurrected from the dead for us. That we could have new life and hope and love and peace and joy in you. God, we ask for forgiveness for the times that we focus too much on ourselves and get distracted or worried or frustrated. And God, we just pray today that like a gentle and good gardener, you would redirect us to help us to grow out toward the light, to grow in sharing your love with every single person that we encounter. God, we just ask you this morning that you would help prune us to be the best branches we can be for you, for the glory of your kingdom. It's in Jesus'